Hey guys, so today we are going to talk a bit about harmonization and how it is actually affecting buyers' demand in today's market. So of course, a lot of my clients are asking me, they've been observing the new launch market and they do see that a lot of projects are actually more than 80% sold, more than 90% sold even, and the PSF on paper are crazy. It is all minimally above 2008 PSF, there's still a lot of people entering. If you are looking at all these headline news articles that I'm looking at, let's start with Zion Grand. 84% sold on launch day, 3050 PSF, that is increasingly high even for a CCR project. Penreef in the Queenstown area, 97% sold on launch day at 2800 PSF average. Sky Holland just a little bit further away, 2953 PSF on average and 99% sold on launch day. And of course the more recent one, River Modern, 90% sold on launch day with an average of 3266 PSF. So of course, to any aspiring buyers out there who are looking to buy new launch because they believe in the whole capital appreciation story that they may have heard from many other people before, these kind of figures, headline PSF averages, they might actually scare you. But why are there so many people buying it? Is it because Singaporeans are all very rich, or is there something that you might be missing that all these buyers are aware of and that is why they are entering despite the supposedly higher PSF price? So before we go to any conclusions, let's take a look at the data. And of course, if you have really been following the new launch market, you might also realize that even something in the OCR region like Pinery Residences in Tampines itself, all the way in the Far East, you might actually realize that even there units are averaging 2008 or close to 2008 PSF, and still there are many people buying into the project. So of course, let's take a look at how harmonization came about and why looking at PSF alone nowadays may actually be misleading. So of course, harmonization of this floor plan on a high level, if we were to dumb it down a little bit, we'll realize that it's actually just simply removing the calculation of aircon ledges and high ceiling space, which means all the loft unit, penthouse units, all of these floor size, even the PS on the ground floor balcony, they are no longer going to be counted towards the floor space that developers can charge you for. And that is why if you look at something like in this example I have over here, although it appears like as though all the harmonized new launches in Lentor, in Springleaf Residence, in Katong, Emerald of Katong itself, they may look like 100 square feet smaller compared to anything non-harmonized, let's say Frost Residences, Park Colonial, Grand Daniel, Sterling Residences, etc. They're looking at the same configuration of 2-bed 1-bath or 2-bed 2-bath, you might see up to 100 square feet difference. But is that really a very significant thing if you minus off the aircon ledge and potentially higher ceiling space, etc.? So of course, before we go deeper, let's have a better understanding of how URA has slowly over time actually improved how efficient the floor space can be for buyers out there, which benefits consumers like yourself and developers unable to overcharge you guys anymore. So of course, I'm just going to highlight the key pointers in this table over here. So of course, the very first one is the removal of bay windows and planter boxes. So I'm pretty sure you probably have seen any of your friends, your relatives, your uncle, auntie, anyone who has bought a much older condo and you see a lot of bay windows, planter boxes, a lot of spaces that you don't actually need. So this is something that developers used to include in the floor space, charge you for it, and you actually are paying for it. So on paper, you might be looking at 3,400 square feet kind of floor plan, but essentially what kind of space are you paying for? And of course, back in 2018, there was a revision to the balcony incentive scheme. So if you notice the older floor plans, the balcony sizes are always very large. Might not always be the best use. Definitely there will be buyers out there who actually enjoy a larger balcony space, but at the same time, there are many consumers out there who actually feel that a large balcony space doesn't serve any purpose to their daily needs at all. And this is where URA has came in and they actually removed the incentive whereby previously developers who built bigger balconies, they actually can earn a little bit more, and unfortunately this has since been scrapped. But that is actually good news for people like us buying into any project. And of course, there was also an increase of the average unit size from 70 square meters to 85 square meters. So in the past, you might see a lot of shoebox unit whereby the one bedder are really very cramped studio apartments, no segregations of wall between the living space, dining space and the bedroom, and because of that, developers were cramping as many units as there could be, and this actually affects the density. So you might be thinking that density isn't that important, but later on I will show you a site plan and you tell me whether actually how does it affect to you visually appealing to you as an emotional buyer if you were actually not looking at new launches but rather you were looking at a resale project and you step into that for site plan. Now of course, like I mentioned earlier, there's a harmonization of floor area definition, so aircon ledges etc. all taken out, and of course the very latest one is the minimum 20% dwelling units in non-landed residential developments. This essentially reduced the stack cuts. All in all, is making it a site plan, a new launch under the new harmonization rules, a lot more livable. People, when you step in, you don't feel like it's so cramped, there's too many people staying in your development itself, and you feel a lot more peaceful. So of course, let's take a look at how all of this harmonization can actually affect you, right? So off the bat, you do do see that definitely the two bedders in the harmonized versus the non-harmonized era, you definitely see a very big difference in the sizes. Let's take an example of Nava Grove versus Pine Tree Hill. Both of them are actually the Pine Grove Parcel A and Parcel B, just right beside each other. One is harmonized, which is Nava Grove, and Pine Tree Hill isn't. But you can see like there's a very big difference in terms of the sizes, the layout, but the main thing is the price is very different. You might actually be paying a higher PSF on paper, however, because of the more harmonized and on paper it is a smaller floor plan size overall, right? It allows the affordability to be reduced, and this is one of the key reasons why I believe that new launches are still being sold out so quickly. Of course, you may be still PSF sensitive. A lot of buyers may still go into the resale market hoping to buy a resale at a lower PSF, but then let's face it honestly, if the harmonized layout is a lot more efficient, if the side plan is a lot better, as a future resale buyer, which one are you going to buy for? So just keep that in mind. So as I was saying earlier, this is an example whereby I was saying this is an example of a very cramped site plan. You can see so many units in this one plot of land, and of course when you step in, can you really choose which unit is the best? I mean, there isn't really even much of a swimming pool other than one lap pool here and some small pools here. Everything else is like so densely populated that you might not know what is good for you. However, let's take a look at these newer harmonized Canberra Crescent residences. You do see that, you know, almost all of them are actually just unblocked views, and the facilities are tucked away in one corner, giving you a very comfortable living space whereby, you know, you can bring your kids out to play. Buyers in future who might be looking at your unit when you're ready to sell, they definitely would feel a lot more comfortable when they step into the development. Whether they are direct buyer, whether they have an agent that brings them around, it's going to feel a lot more different. And of course, Penrith being in Queenstown in Margaret Drive, a lot of people were wondering whether the 2008 PSF was actually crazy high, but still it was more than 90% sold, and this is one of the main reasons. So let's compare it with another resale project, Sterling Residences. Exactly the same size, 786 square feet. The main difference is Sterling Residences only can fit in a 2+ study, whereas at Penrith you have a 3-bedroom compact. So of course, if you were a family that needed 3 bedrooms, which one are you going to go for? So you can see how efficient it is. Definitely once you enter, there's still an enclosed kitchen. This is already enclosed for you, whereas for Sterling you might potentially have to build up your own enclosure. Living room, yes, maybe it's slightly narrower compared to Sterling, but at the end of the day, you're going to get 3 full proper bedrooms over here as compared to 2 bedrooms here and 1 study space here. And of course, at the next comparison, you can look at Zion Grand with another resale project Riviere. Over here, this is a pretty new resale project as well, TOP in 2023. This is a 2-bedder at 818 square feet. Zion Grand, exactly the same, 818 square feet, but 3 bedrooms. Same thing, as a buyer, which one are you going to go for? And what's more, this is a CCR project that did very well, mainly because the selling price was actually much lower than Riviere, a resale condo, and you get 1 extra bedroom. So just to put it out there, would you rather pay $300,000 more to live in immediately, or will you save the $300,000, get 1 extra bedroom, and potentially open up your buying pool in future? So that's probably what happened at Zion Grand, which resulted in a pretty good launch day sales. And definitely these are all the small things that we are seeing in the market today that is affecting buyers' demand and thinking as to why they are actually going for new launches instead of hitting the resale market with potentially lower PSF. And then we can look at something like this. So this is the pre-harmonization floor plan. I'm going to talk about one other project, the Sand. This project actually didn't do so well on launch day itself. This is a harmonized project in District 21. There is a key reason why back then it wasn't selling so well. Essentially, the selling price back then wasn't fully accepted by the market yet. So on launch day itself, the performance of the sales weren't great, but right now in the last 2 months or so, it has definitely caught up now that we see projects like Pioneer Residence at Tampines transacting at 2008 PSF, whereas the Sand is still much lower in terms of PSF, and it is exactly the same. It is harmonized, efficient layout, and it is in Upper Bukit Timah. It is pretty much a very good location. It is not OCR, so that is something to take note of. So you do see similar projects in the area, Daintree Residences at Bukit Timah. All of these are very highly dense populated lands projects that actually doesn't really appeal to people, and we can even pull up the transaction records and you will realize that the transaction volume there isn't as healthy. But take a look at the Sand. Honestly, the space to pay to block distance, the facilities, everything is very well spaced out. There isn't too much of a overcrowding of facilities, overcrowding of units, etc. No, nothing of that. And this is the main reason why in recent months I've actually started to see the sales at the Sand pick up. So this is actually a project that I truly believe in, that it is very important to keep an eye on. So if you look at Daintree Residences versus the Sand, just a very quick example of a 3-bedder versus 3-bedder in the same area, one non-harmonized, one harmonized, and on paper, Daintree has 70 over square feet extra. But then, is it really efficient? I honestly don't think so. So if you were to compare the two layouts, you do realize that the extra 70 square feet is most likely going to be factored in the aircon ledges. The balcony is slightly bigger. Apart from that, nothing much changes. You can see the layout is more or less the same. The living room in fact is 3.2 meter versus the living room at Dane 3 residence, which is just 3 meters. And of course, some people might feel that there is no storeroom in the sand, but at the same time, you have to realize there's a utility room that you can use as a storeroom or as a helper's room or as an additional room. It's really very flexible and up to you on how you want to do it. And lastly, of course, you do realize that looking at the transactional prices, you can see that Dane 3 is transacting around 2.2 million for 3 bedders, whereas you can still find back then 1.9 million, 2.1 million. It's pretty much almost the same price, but you get more efficient layouts, you get a newer one. So using the analogy of a car, would you rather buy a new car at the same or cheaper price, or would you rather buy an old car at a higher price? I will leave it at here. As of now, there are still many interesting post-launch harmonization projects. When the developers were bidding for this very newer batch of harmonization projects, they all were very conservative with the land bids, and this allowed them to give you very good potential entry starting from prices. However, moving forward, we do see a lot of changes upcoming in the land bid prices, and the new harmonized project might not exactly be at this kind of price range anymore. It will likely go higher. I would definitely say it would go higher. So if you are keen to check out what opportunities lie in today's market, please feel free to reach out and I'll be happy to help you guys out a little bit more.